Near mint condition, the home of collected editions. Oh my gosh, look at that panel of Batman. You have the Absolute, you have the Deluxe. DC Comics firing on all cylinders. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's an intro that I've already used. Haven't I already done this already? Well, you know, maybe I get to use it once a year, right? With all these Superman Omnis coming out. Twice a year, perhaps. I am the Uncanny Omar. You're watching Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. Today, I'm going to give you an overview of the Superman Our Worlds at War Omnibus Volume 1, Prelude to the War. So, join me. And welcome back, everybody. So here we have the latest Superman Omnibus, and DC decided to go with Our Worlds at War. Now, they could have easily put all of Our Worlds at War together into one omnibus. As a matter of fact, they've released this big, thick edition in the past. Now, of course, this has a lot more different content than the trade paperback edition. This was also released as 2 trade paperbacks. However, this has part of this, because as you probably saw there, Omnibus Volume 1, Prelude to War, it also actually has contents from these 2 trade paperbacks that have been long out of print. Volumes 5 and 6 of this particular era. But while I have the dust jacket on, actually, I did want to talk about this cover here by Ed McGuinness, which is, of course, Superman fighting the one person responsible for perhaps our worlds going to war together, and that is, of course, Imperiex. Now, this is Imperiex, but then who is this big giant dude? We'll talk more about that here in a second. Again, I love this era of Superman's art, because not only is it Ed McGuinness, you have artwork in here from Mike Wieringo. It almost has that Superman Adventures look to it. Superman, Our Worlds at War, Omnibus, Prelude to War, Jeff Loeb, Ed McGuinness, Mike McCone, the Volume 1 number, the new DC logo, and then all of these worlds that are going to war for that very early looking CG. And then you have this piece right here of this new villain. I do have to talk about him because he's actually underneath the dust jacket. But before we take the dust jacket off, where does this fit into the reading order of Superman in omnibus format? Believe it or not, it goes right after the Death and Return of Superman, because there's nothing in between these books. And here's the even crazier part. This is still part of the Triangle era. Does that mean that Superman Triangle Years Omnibus Volume 11 will double, or I guess Volume 10 will double dip with this? Sure, if they make it that far. I have no idea how far they're going to go with the Triangle era, but we are still into the Triangle Years here, which is just crazy. And let's look at the flaps of the books here. Or one book, sorry. Ed McGuinness again, drawing this badass picture of Krypto, and then Superman here on the left from the City of Tomorrow. And I forgot to mention the retail price of this is $125, and yet there's your ISBN. Underneath the dust jacket, this is where that guy is, and I'll have to talk about that guy here in a little bit. He's a new old character, and to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like, there we go. Just doesn't have the stars, the shiny star pattern that is throughout the dust jacket, and then the back of the book, this piece by Doug Mahnke with this very familiar character too. Okay, that's Darkseid, by the way. I can actually talk about that guy. The name of this dude might, you know, spoil some things. This is drawn by Kano. Now, I'm going to open the book up. We're going to talk about the stories found in here, and again, where it takes place in the reading order of Superman. And talk about the mapping of the book, why it's mapped a certain way, and then, of course, the extras and the build of the book. Okay, let's go ahead and open this big book up. You have your end sheets there. You have this super muscular Superman fighting Imperiex here on the title page. Superman Our Worlds at War. Omnibus Volume 1, Prelude to War. This is by Ian Churchill. And then you have... These covers are actually from the one-shots. Like the Green Lantern one-shot, the Young Justice one-shot, Batman, Superman. But Superman Our Worlds at War credits over here. Jeff Loeb as pretty much the main writer of the stories, but he's not alone. If you look here, you have people like Dan Abnett, Ed Brubaker, Phil Jimenez, Scott Beatty, Andy Lanning, Greg Rucka, Judd Winnick, J.H. Williams III, Marv Wolfman, just to name a few. And over here, you have your pencilers like Ed McGuinness, Mike McCone, Carlo Barberi, Doug Mankey, and I mentioned that Mike Wieringo was doing some of the art. Jeff Matsuda, Todd Nock, Travis Moore, Mark Miller, just to name a few of your pencilers. And your inkers over here like Marlo Alquiza, Terry Austin, Richard Bonks, Keith Champagne, colorists like Gene D'Angelo, Pat Garahy, and Tanya Horry and Richard Horry, and letters like Ken Lopez and Bill Oakley, Clem Robbins. Over here is your table of contents, and just to make sure people know, yes, this does have page numbers, and maybe some people are rolling their eyes going, of course, as a table of contents, it has to have page numbers. You would think. Now, what they do is they tell you the issue number, when it was released, what the title of that issue is, and where you're going to find it. And we're going to come back to the table of contents because we do have to talk about the mapping. And we kick it off with Superman 151. So collected in this omnibus is Action Comics 763, 775. Thank you all, by the way. I'll explain why I'm thanking you all here in a second. 777, 779, and 780. Adventures of Superman 576, 592 to 593. Batman Our Worlds at War #1. Green Lantern Our Worlds at War one-shot. And we also have Superboy number 89, Supergirl 59, Superman 151 to 154, 159, 170 to 171, Superman Lex 2000, one-shot Superman Our Worlds at War, Secret Files and Origins #1, Superman the Man of Steel 98, 109, 114 to 115, Superman Y2K #1, Wonder Woman 171, Young Justice Our Worlds at War #1, and Stories from Adventures of Superman 586, President Luthor, or Luthor, depending if you're a big Gene Hackman fan, Secret Files and Origins #1, Superman 165, and Superman Metropolis Secret Files and Origins #1. The book has a total of 872 pages, and it retails for $125. One of the things that you're not going to see in that table of contents, either at Lunar, Amazon, wherever you get your books, or even, as a matter of fact, on the back of the book is Action Comics 775. But rest assured, you all got it added in here. So, again, we're going to go back to the table of contents just to kind of show you that, indeed, Action Comics actually, it'll be down here. 775 is here in all its glory. And some of you suggested to DC that that should happen, and I asked them if they could add it, and they said yes. So, that's awesome. Spoilers! Going into the overview is going to be difficult because this is such an interesting era of Superman. If you have the City of Tomorrow compendium and the Emperor Joker hardcover, and those are the most recent collections of Superman, this will go after it. I've already done a Superman reading order, but I kind of wanted to let people know in case they haven't seen that. I think it was 5-part reading order. It was huge. And it's a couple of years old, but still relevant. Okay. What in the world is Our Worlds at War? Well, we kick it off with those issues of Superman that reintroduces us to these characters really quick. Written by Jeff Loeb, drawn by Mike McCone. Apparently, Lex Luthor owned the Daily Planet for a while, and now he has sold it back to a different person, and there is a reason why. Now, we don't have enough time to get to know everybody at the Daily Planet because immediately Mongul comes down and picks a fight with Superman. But he's not really picking a fight with Superman. What he is doing is actually asking for help. Because apparently something huge, something big, has knocked him out and threw him to Earth. What creature is powerful enough to hit that hard? Superman tells Lois that he remembers hitting somebody at full strength at one time when he was a kid, before his powers fully developed, and what that could mean. So he starts thinking about that. Like, how can someone hit someone as powerful as Mongul that hard and just knock him out all the way to Earth? And, of course, Mongul tells him that his planet's been destroyed and he needs help. Who this person is none other than this character known as Imperiex. This is his first real appearance through these pages here early on, and he is somebody that is building a machine. It looks very much like, almost like a Kirby type of creation in design and everything. I want to say, I think it's Ed McGuinness that actually designed the character, but Mike McCone gets to draw him first. But that's what he wants to do. He wants to destroy these worlds and own them, and Superman's not having any of that. So, during Christmas Day, he ends up fighting Imperiex and defeating him temporarily. Because as you find out, and you saw that cover, that the person that he was fighting was not truly Imperiex. Maybe it was a kind of like a Doombot, and then the true Imperiex is right here. And he wants to destroy Superman. So that will come to play later on. Then we get into the Superman Y2K story, which focuses on different times of New Year's Eve. December 31st, like in the 1620 and 1999. And what's happening here is that there are some things that are going to change for the characters of Lex Luthor. One of the most important characters that plays a big part of all of this is this character named Lena Luthor. So that's why I like doing these overviews, to kind of prepare people for some of these characters that are going to be appearing through here. Because, you know, you have your basic characters are like Superman, which of course is Clark Kent. You have Lois Lane. They're married during this time. Best friend Jimmy Olsen. You've got Perry White, who owns the Daily, or I'm sorry, who is the manager of the Daily Planet. And then you've got Superman's parents here on Earth, Jonathan and Martha Kent. And, you know, most people probably know who Lex Luthor is, but also here in these stories are characters like Lena Luthor, that perhaps, without going into spoilers because it is explained through here, that he had a daughter with somebody named Constance, and that happened before these issues here that are collected. Now, she does play a huge important part in all of this Brainiac story. The basic story of Brainiac Y2K was we were living in fear at the time, by the way, of Y2K. We had no idea what it was going to do to us. We thought machines were going to take over. It was going to be like the Terminator. We had no idea about AI yet. Yeah. I'm calling out all you AI channels, you bastards. Anyway, super successful. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So what is happening through here is that Brainiac from the future has traveled back to the past to take over Metropolis and to finally defeat Superman or anybody that stands in his way. And he's having to kind of like merge with another Brainiac from this era. And it's up to Superman and friends to put a stop to it. It's a crossover event, which is why you're going to find issues of Adventures of Superman in here and Superman. And also one thing to note is that this is in the early 2000s when this was coming out. Again, part of the Triangle era. So you're going to have some experimental art through here, primarily in the way that, yes, this is a throwback, he does wear his lightning suit, in the way that Brainiac looks. He looks like a CG creation. But you get to see a lot of other characters through here, too. Like Steel. It's just basically, I'm sure you probably saw him in, I think when he's fighting Superman through these pages, that he looks like a CG created character. Yeah. Now that's the Brainiac from the future. That's a very futuristic look for back in the 2000s, okay? We were trying. We thought the future was going to be a lot more bleak, just like Conan O'Brien told us through that song. And let me make sure we got... Yeah, so this is a big crossover that happens. It's basically Superman and Lex Luthor kind of turning the tides and fighting off against a very common villain. During this event, though, we have the return of some characters like Maxima and characters like Graven that come in, because all of these characters will kind of help set up an important alliance that will take place during our Worlds at War. Now, we jump ahead a little bit because, as you can see here from the table of contents, when these books were printed, we're going from 99, which makes sense, to January of 2000, and then we go to, like, March of 2000, and we have some months that we skip right here. So we go all the way until August of 2000, and then January of 2001, so that's a big jump. Now, this big story, which is why I mentioned the whole spoilers thing, is when Lex Luthor is going to become president of the United States. It's broken down into stories here where we have Cat Grant doing a special retrospective on the life of Lex Luthor and who he was. And we have several stories in here. This is one or the other. Batman approaching Lex Luthor. We have Mercy here playing an important part in the life of Lex Luthor, as she usually does. What is her name? I think it's Graves, isn't it? Mercy Graves, I want to say. We have Hope is also the other, kind of like bodyguard, not secretary, Hope Taya, I think that was her name. But anyway, they are important key players in this too. So this little event right here, this one shot, helps kind of let you know that Lex Luthor is now president of the United States. And Superman has to admit it. Like, everything that Lex Luthor has done, all these evil, horrible things, doesn't matter. The people have spoken, and the people have voted for Lex Luthor. So, what is the guy to do? Just follow the rules, right? We have a Linear Man story right here. That's like a good Christmas story. By the way, there's another character that appeared through here. It is the Strange Visitor. And she's another one that kind of plays she does play a huge role in our Worlds at War. The Linear Man also play a big part in the stories to come, because this is like a Christmas story, world without Superman. So what ends up happening in this story is you have the character of Larry Lee that comes back to the past, and she shows Superman this dystopic future, and she has kind of like ultimatum for Superman. He can change his emotional state, or the Linear Man will change it for him. So you do have the return of the Linear Men through this story, and it's not the last time you're going to see them back. I remember when I was doing an overview, was it Panic in the Sky? I can't remember. Maybe it was Triangle Years Volume 1, that it was somebody was saying, comparing the character Rip Hunter to Cable from Marvel Comics. Action Comics 775, one of my favorite issues of all time, and I'm so glad it's finally collected in an omnibus format. This is the introduction to a new character, or some new characters named the Elite, who do things their own way. The Elite are a group of characters, of superpowered characters, all led by this guy named Manchester Black, and they all first appear here. And it's him, it's the Hat, it's Cold Cast, and Menagerie. Those are the characters that make up the superhero group, or they like to call themselves superheroes. They do things their own way. In this particular mission in Japan, they end up like killing people. So Superman's like, hey, you don't do that. You're superheroes, for Christ's sakes. And they kind of throw down the gauntlet, and they're like, yeah, well, we do our own thing. So life isn't like I love that Manchester Black is such an awesome character. Life isn't like the comic books. Reality is a lot bloodier than that. So we challenge you, Superman, to see if you truly are as pure and innocent as you think you are. There's a beautiful speech. This is one of my favorite issues to tell people to read, like as a good introduction to the character of Superman. But we're going to skip how it ends, because I want people to be genuinely surprised. The Metal Men get a couple stories in here. Crypto gets a story in here that's quite adorable. This is one that's drawn by Del Keown. And then Mongul appears again with a character named Mongul, who again will play, those two characters will play an important part in the story to come. And the story to come is all getting set up. Remember that character of Imperiex I talked about? This is a Strange Visitor coming back to Earth. And that character is about to make his move. And we know that he has existed out there for a while. This is the Eradicator, the return of that character. Well, for now. And this is what he looks like. And the character on the cover that I mentioned, he's on the dust jacket too. He's introduced through these pages. There's these characters from this country called Pokolistan. And it's all about how Superman travels over there to try to put a stop to some of the crimes that are happening. And it's all the Super family actually in this issue kind of gathering together in an attempt to save Superman from himself, because Superman thinks that he might be a threat to this country. There's characters here that appear like Cancer and Faora and Ignition, but the big one to appear is this guy in armor. And he calls himself General Zod. Now, that is a name that you just don't choose at random. Why is he calling himself that? Is he truly General Zod? You've got characters from the Legion of Superheroes showing up through these issues. So you're probably wondering, what the hell is going on? Why are all these random characters showing up through Superman? Every one of these stories that are collected in here kind of give you the most modern status quo for the characters that are going to play a big part in our worlds at war, including Brainiac 13, including the Linear Men, including the Metal Men, including some of the... No, I'm sorry, they weren't even the Legion of Superheroes. It's the, what are they called? The Fatal Five. These guys show up. But all these characters are about to play a huge part in the story. So this right here could be, I guess, the setup is what you could call this, even though you get the first appearance of Imperiex through here, the new status quo for all these characters, including the character of Lex Luthor now being president, and then you get to the main event. The main event really kicks off with this one-shot right here, right after the Superman story, because you've had Superman 171, and that kind of ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, hinting at that perhaps this big power is coming to Earth. And then we get Green Lantern, Our Worlds at War, where Kyle Rayner, the current Green Lantern, who is dating Jade, again, status quo is being established, is trying to put a stop to Sinestro, but then Superman says, we're going to need his help. As a matter of fact, we're going to need everybody's help for what is coming. So that's what these one-shots are, and then in between those one-shots, we get issues of Superman. This is drawn by the phenomenal and late Mike Wieringo. I love this big chin era. Reminds me of the classic cartoons, and of course, the Adventures of Superman. And see, if you didn't have the first appearance of Manchester Black and the Elite, this conversation that's happening right now between Superman, what he's willing to not do to put a stop to villains, just wouldn't make any sense. You have Amanda Waller, you've got Batman dealing with Earth stuff, even though there's a bigger fish to fry later on in his confrontation with Lex Luthor. And then, of course, you've got Superman readying himself for this big battle to come. The Young Justice are the first ones that kind of go to, I don't want to say war, but almost like the first line of defense as to the Imperiex coming here to Earth and hitting the outer sphere. So it's really cool to see them like actually become a big part of this battle. This is written by the phenomenal Peter David and drawn by Todd Nauck. And again, appearances by different types of characters that I just mentioned throughout here, including the Strange Visitor, who in this collection you'll see how she crash landed on Earth. Superman's still dealing with things in Pokolistan, right here. And then this volume actually ends on one of the biggest cliffhangers. And you'll have stories in here like this Wonder Woman issue that has very little to do with the Our Worlds at War, but it's collected in full. That's also part of the Phil Jimenez story. Then you have the Supergirl story written by Peter David, and of course it affects her because she has people that live in Smallville and in Metropolis, and it ends with this big fight right here from Our Worlds at War. And this is broken up into different pieces, kind of showing you the big stage that is taking place. Because by now, you have characters like Apocalypse that have shown up, and whose side is he on? You have this whole alliance, like Maxima coming back. Remember when I said those characters would kind of come back and play a huge, important part in the story? A bigger part than you think, and that's why you have their appearances. You have Maxima, and Massacre, and Graven, and Mongul, and Mongul. All of them playing a huge part. And we haven't even gotten to the main event, which is the big fight against the Imperiex Prime, the big guy. And that's all I will say about this big book and why it's actually mapped this way, why they decided to put what some people have seen called random issues. It's not really random issues, they're picked on purpose to give you the most recent status quo for these characters. Sure, they could have put the handbook at the very beginning, but, I mean, it's not as impactful as Superman just kind of going, yeah, okay, it sucks, but, you know, what are you going to do? Got to follow the law, and I guess he's President Lex Luthor now. But they do put the handbook back here, so you kind of, this is from the Secret Files and Origins, so you can kind of keep up with what these characters were like at the time. The Alien Alliance here. I know it says allies, but that's what they were calling themselves, the Alliance. And yes, characters like Adam Strange showing up. That way, when you read something like this, which just kind of jumps into the story, you're not like, wait a second, who the hell are these characters and what happened here? Now, yes, the paper quality of this, it's already yellowing, and this is just a few years old. But it's like a newsprint type of paper stock. In the back is where you saw the handbook, or the Secret Files, And then the sketchbook by Doug Mankey. So maybe it was Doug Mankey that first drew the guy. I thought it was Ed McGuinness. Duncan Relau, just phenomenal artwork throughout the book. And those trade paperbacks that I showed you earlier that are out of print. And then the 3 worlds. What world is that? Come on, you know, Darkseid showing up. You know that world. All right. The build of the book. 872 pages. And sewn binding. Printed in this glossy paper stock. Not as thick as they used to be. And this one actually has a lot of double page spread. So I can kind of show you at the very beginning just how well it lays over. I mean, you don't have really any gutter loss right here. And that's at the very beginning. The paper stock isn't as thick as it used to be, so there's just a little bit of bleed through happening on lighter pages or, of course, white pages, which, you know, when you're in space, that isn't really a problem. Or when you have Doug Mankey draw your stuff, not a problem at all. But that's what Our Worlds at War is. Volume 1. It's not even the main event yet. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. In the comments down below, let me know if you are planning on picking this up, if you already have the big, thick trade paperback, if you're hoping that they will do a compendium collection of this era and properly mapped without any missing issues, and what you think about books that are mapped this way. Just kind of giving you an introduction to the character, and then jumping ahead by a few months, sometimes years, to kind of give you the most recent status quo of character. But that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button on the way out. Stay healthy and safe out there until the next Superman Omnibus. Much love.